So that was probably most of us, like the night before our speech outlines are due. We probably look like this girl right here. So stress is something that affects people of all ages and genders. And as college students, we all experience stress on a day-to-day basis, whether it be trying to balance school, work, or do both at the same time. So I'm credible to speak today because I've done extensive research on stress and the effects that it has on your mind and on your body. Um, in this speech, my goal is to help all of you become a little bit more informed about how stress occurs in your brain and the main causes of stress in college and what effects that it has on your mind and on your body. So first I'll talk about what stress is. Next, I'll talk about the main causes of stress in college. And lastly, I'll talk about the effects that it has on your body and mind. So first, I'm going to talk about the science behind stress. So according to a study done by Bruce McEwen in the Dialogues in Clinical Neuroscience published in 2006, he defines stress as a commonly used word that usually causes feelings of anxiety and frustration due to our lack of ability to cope with certain situations. So how we really, when we're in situations that make us feel anxious or frustrated, our brain releases these two hormones called adrenaline and cortisol. And that's what creates this fight or flight response that we usually have that help us deal with the stressful situations. So now that I've talked about what stress is, next I'll talk about the main causes of stress in college. So according to a study done by Mizra Ranchita and Michelle McKean in the American Journal of Health Sciences published in 2000, time management was the leading cause of stress in college. As students, it can be really challenging, as I said before, balancing your all the events that are going on in your life. So from personal experience, I know I have to balance school, work, and soccer, so trying to fit in like other things like hanging out with friends and family is really challenging. Another main cause of stress in college is financial stress. So to put it simply, like college is really expensive. For those of us who don't get financial aid or the financial aid doesn't cover all of our tuition, trying to come up with that extra money can be really stressful. And then on top of that, students have to worry about paying for books and food and stuff like that, and usually we're on minimum wage jobs, so it causes a lot of stress. Another leading cause of stress is peer pressure, because in college we're put into this like big fish pool with all these different ages, so it's really hard to resist peer pressure to do bad things like drink and do drugs and stuff like that. And lastly, increased responsibility. Now that we're in college, basically our fate is in our own hands. Like we get to choose whether we want to go to class or not, or we have to worry about driving and what traffic is like and how much time we have to have before class starts to make it on time, and like getting good grades, because now that we're in college, we don't have the teachers like on our back so much. So since it's so different from high school, it can be really stressful for a lot of people to adjust to college and the difficulty of it. So now that I've talked about the leading causes of stress in college, next I'll talk about how stress affects our mind and our body. So stress affects many aspects of our lives, including our mind and our body. According to a study done by Sonia Lupien in the Nature Review journal Science published in 2009, she stated that repeated exposure to stress affects our brain structures related to cognition and mental health. One way that stress affects our body is that it lowers our immune system. So our bodies have these things called lymphocytes, which help us fight off harmful viruses and diseases. And when we have the high levels of cortisol that are caused by stress, it suppresses the lymphocytes, so that exposes our body to a lot of harmful viruses and diseases, which can make it easier for us to get sick. And some other effects that it can have are anxiety and lack of sleep. So this picture also states a lot of the ways that stress can affect our body. So it has a lot of effects that we don't really notice on a day-to-day basis, such as like it can increase your blood pressure, it can decrease your nutrient absorption, it can give you skin problems like acne, it can cause stomach problems, pancreatic problems, it can cause pains in your joints and muscles. So there's a lot of there's a lot of effects that stress has on us that we maybe don't realize. So now that I talked about the main effects that stress has on your body, let's wrap up. So first I talked about the science behind stress. Then I talked about the main causes of stress in college. And lastly, I talked about the effect that stress has on your mind and on your body. So I hope you all have gained more knowledge about stress and the effects that it has on you as an individual. So the next time you guys want to procrastinate, I advise not to do it because it causes more harm than good in your body. Thank you.